Hey everyone, so I'm going to talk real quickly about medieval towns. At the beginning of the Middle Ages, most people lived in the countryside as a part of a feudal manor or a religious community like a monastery. Towns were surrounded by thick walls. Over time, the population grew. As we can see here, hamlets where less than 100 people grew into villages, which grew into towns, and eventually they would be cities. Here's an example of a feudal manor house and the surrounding land. You have the mill where they grind grain into flour. We have fields, and then of course we have the tithe barn. And I mentioned the tithe barn before. It was a tithe and it was a tax. So let's just call it a tax. And 1/10 of the farmer's crops were given to the Catholic Church and they became very powerful. Here's a storage for those grains and crops. By the High Middle Ages, improvements in farming, such as deforestation and crop rotation, caused the population to boom. Crop rotation comes from China. And the idea is that you leave one field fallow and you can have animals graze that year. That way, you don't rob the soil of its nutrients all the time. And then they rotate them. This is a medieval market where the surplus of food from the improvements in agriculture were taken and sold. This led to increased trade. It led to a rise in a new class called the merchant class and specialization. In particular, towns would specialize in things like wool or glass. Over time, these towns became very powerful and they no longer needed to depend on the feudal lords, and they could purchase a charter, which was a written grant of privileges granted by the ruler to people, and they could govern themselves. In northern Italy, we see many towns fighting their way to be independent. We'll get to that later.